What Belinda didn't know when she tried to steal my truck is that I'd been documenting everything since day one. 6 a.m. Coffee steam rising from my mug as this woman jams a gas station novelty key into my F-150's door lock, screaming about community authority and commercial vehicle violations. The metallic scraping still makes my blood boil. For months, Belinda Crawford had terrorized Willowbrook Estates like some suburban Stalin, measuring grass with rulers, timing trash placement, collecting fake fines from anyone who didn't look like her idea of neighborhood material. But here's what our self-appointed HOA dictator didn't realize. While she was busy playing Napoleon with a measuring tape, she'd been stealing from the wrong electrician. Every midnight surveillance mission, every fraudulent violation notice, every attempt to steal community property, all captured in 4K resolution. Because when someone tries to steal your truck at dawn, you don't just fight back. You expose exactly how much they've been stealing from everyone else. What would you do if your HOA tried to steal your truck with a toy key? Drop a comment below. This suburban takedown gets absolutely brutal. Let me back up and tell you how a single dad electrician ended up in a war with suburban royalty. I'm Marcus, 34, raising my daughter Zoe after a divorce that left me working double shifts to afford a decent neighborhood. When I found our house in Willowbrook Estates, it felt like hitting the lottery. Good schools, safe streets, and neighbors who actually waved hello. The HOA fees were $180 a month for community enhancement, pool maintenance, landscaping, playground upkeep. Fair enough. What the realtor forgot to mention was our HOA president, Belinda Crawford, a woman who treats neighborhood management like military strategy. Belinda's 58, retired bank manager, widowed 2 years ago. Picture someone who irons her jeans and alphabetizes her spice rack, then give her legal authority over 200 households. Her house sits on the corner like a fortress. White Lexus in the pristine driveway, lawn so perfect it looks artificial, and flower beds that smell like a funeral home from all that fresh mulch. The morning air in our neighborhood carries two things: the distant hum of leaf blowers and the sharp click of Belinda's heels during her daily patrol. She actually walks the streets with a clipboard, measuring garbage can placement and timing when people leave for work. My first violation notice appeared week 2, tucked under my windshield wiper like a parking ticket. $75 fine for my F-150 being a commercial vehicle in a residential zone. Now my truck isn't commercial. It's a personal F-150 with a toolbox, the same setup half the guys in America drive. But according to Belinda's interpretation, anything used for work counts as commercial. The Latino landscaper down the street, his pickup got the same treatment. The black postal worker who parks his personal car overnight. Yep, fined for government vehicle storage. See the pattern? I paid that first fine because Zoe was starting 3rd grade and I wanted stability, not drama. Worst decision I ever made. In Belinda's world, compliance equals weakness. Suddenly she's cruising past our house twice daily, that white Lexus purring like a predator. The crunch of gravel under her tires became our neighborhood's soundtrack of dread. She'd slow down, peer through her windshield, take notes. Violation number 2. $100 for non-conforming holiday decorations. Basic Target Christmas lights, the same ones glowing on 12 other houses. But mine were excessive and culturally inappropriate. Never mind that the massive nativity scene 3 doors down got 0 scrutiny. Violation 3. $125 for Zoe's pink bike obstructing pedestrian access. The bike was in our driveway, nowhere near the sidewalk. But there's Belinda at 7 p.m. with her measuring tape, documenting the safety hazard while the smell of barbecue from the Patel family's cookout drifted over our fence. The community lived in whispered fear. Conversations at mailboxes went like this: glance around, step closer, quiet admission of harassment, then quick retreat before Belinda spotted the conspiracy meeting. Mrs. Patterson moved after getting fined $300 for her RV. The Johnsons paid $200 for their basketball hoop being 6 inches into the setback zone. Dave Morgan, the plumber, got hit with commercial vehicle fines despite driving the same truck for 15 years. But the worst part? Watching my 8-year-old daughter develop anxiety every time that white Lexus appeared. Zoe's nervous giggle when Belinda stared through our living room window, the way she'd duck behind curtains during the evening inspections. That's when I knew this wasn't about HOA rules. The sound of Belinda's car door became my daily wake-up call. 6:15 every morning. Slam. Another violation notice. Another invented infraction. Another bite out of my overtime budget. Most neighbors paid their fines and hoped to fly under the radar. But I'm an electrician. When something's shorting out the system, you trace it back to the source. And Belinda Crawford was about to learn she'd picked the wrong house to terrorize. Month 3 is when Belinda lost her damn mind completely. I'm loading my truck for a hospital rewiring job when she storms across the street carrying what looks like a small toolbox. Her face has that determined expression people get right before they do something spectacularly stupid. "I've researched universal automotive access," she announces, setting the box on my hood like she's about to perform surgery. "HOA emergency protocols grant me vehicle entry rights." Inside her little kit, a collection of cheap metal tools that smell like factory oil and broken dreams. She spent $89 on what the website probably called a master locksmith emergency kit, the kind of garbage marketed to people who think YouTube videos count as professional training. "Move your commercial vehicle immediately or I'll relocate it myself." The audacity is breathtaking. This woman actually believes neighborhood covenants give her grand theft auto privileges. I start recording. "Ma'am, attempting to break into my truck is not breaking in. Accessing community property with proper authority." She selects what appears to be a slim gym and starts working on my door lock. The metallic scraping sounds like a cat being murdered while her designer perfume mixes with the morning scent of dew on asphalt. She's grunting with effort, completely focused on her official HOA business. "Ma'am, this is literally attempted theft." "Theft?" She pauses, sweating slightly. "You modified the locks to prevent HOA access. That's the real crime here." The woman is having a full conversation with my truck door, muttering about resistance to authority and community compliance while trying to jimmy the lock like some suburban car thief. When her magic tools fail, she escalates to accusation mode. "You've tampered with HOA property. This universal system should work on everything in the development." Here's where I make my first real counter move. Instead of just defending myself, I go on offense. "Officer Rodriguez?" I'm already dialing. "Yeah, it's Marcus from Willowbrook. I need someone here for attempted vehicle theft." "No, I'm not kidding." Belinda panics. "I'm calling them too. He's stolen community access keys." So now we're both on the phone with 911, giving completely opposite versions of reality while she stands there holding locksmith tools like evidence of her own crime. In the distance, someone's lawnmower starts up, just another peaceful suburban morning, except for the felony in progress. Rodriguez arrives and immediately recognizes my truck from when I donated electrical work to the police charity auction. Good timing, because credibility matters when your neighbor's claiming theft of imaginary keys. "Morning, Marcus. What's the situation here?" "Officer," Belinda interrupts, "this resident has stolen HOA master keys and is preventing legitimate community access." Rodriguez examines her toolkit. Here's the mini twist that changes everything. Her professional locksmith system is literally a novelty item. $2 at a gas station, marketed as a magic key that supposedly opens anything. The packaging is still in her toolkit, complete with cartoon illustrations and the words, "For entertainment purposes only." "Ma'am," Rodriguez says slowly, "this is a toy." "It's a universal access system purchased for community enforcement." "It's a joke gift. Look, it says gag gift right on the package." The woman spent nearly $100 on what amounts to a prank item, then tried to commit a felony with it. I'm starting to understand why her husband might have died of stress. Here's your knowledge nugget. HOA covenants cannot override criminal law. Attempted vehicle theft is a felony regardless of what authority figures think they have. Even homeowners association presidents can't legally break into private vehicles. Rodriguez takes a report while Belinda realizes she just demonstrated intent to commit grand theft auto to a police officer. She's issued a warning, but the damage is done. Word spreads faster than gossip at a church potluck. But here's my real counterpunch. I don't just defend myself anymore, I start documenting everything. That afternoon, I install a security camera aimed at my driveway. Legal on my property captures everything happening near my truck. When Janet from Maple Street slips me a note saying she tried this on Mrs. Patterson's RV too, I realize this isn't random harassment. This is a pattern, and patterns can be predicted, documented, and used against the people creating them. That evening, 3 neighbors approach me separately. Same story. Belinda's been testing her universal access theory on multiple vehicles. She's not just power hungry, she's practicing for something bigger. The question was, what did she really want access to? Belinda's response to getting schooled by a cop? Launch a full-scale propaganda war. 4 days after the magic key humiliation, every household gets a robo-call at dinner time. Belinda's voice dripping with artificial concern. Emergency community safety meeting Thursday, 7 p.m. Topic: escalating commercial vehicle violations and property value protection. But the real masterpiece? Professional flyers appearing overnight on every doorstep. Color photos of my F-150 shot from multiple angles like crime scene evidence, complete with red arrows pointing to my toolbox and the words "commercial violation" stamped across each image. At the bottom, "Protect your investment. Mandatory attendance required." The woman hired a graphic designer. This isn't a neighborhood complaint anymore. It's a military campaign against one electrician's pickup truck. I walk into Thursday's meeting carrying my ammunition, printed HOA bylaws, state vehicle registration codes, and a folder full of photos I took during my own neighborhood surveillance. The community center smells like burnt coffee and desperation, with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry wasps. 12 people show up out of 200 households. Belinda's got Eleanor Fitzpatrick in the front row for moral support, a 72-year-old who calls police when teenagers exist too loudly in public spaces. "Ladies and gentlemen," Belinda begins, clicking to a blown-up photo of my truck that's somehow more detailed than satellite imagery, "we're facing systematic destruction of community standards." Her PowerPoint is a thing of beauty and madness. Slide 2. Commercial infiltration timeline with timestamps, license plates, and GPS coordinates of every work vehicle she's spotted. She's been conducting surveillance like this is a counter-terrorism operation instead of a suburb disagreement. Here's where I deploy my counterpunch. Instead of just defending myself, I go nuclear with facts. "Belinda, I've reviewed every HOA document filed with the county. There's no commercial vehicle restriction in our original covenants. Want to explain where this rule came from?" She fumbles through her papers while sweat beads on her forehead. Community standards evolve. According to state law, HOA rule changes require homeowner votes. When did we vote on vehicle restrictions? The mini twist hits like a freight train when David Morgan stands up from the back. But it's not just support, it's revelation. "I pulled the county records too," David announces, holding up his own folder. "Belinda filed these commercial vehicle complaints without board approval. She's been making up rules and collecting fines with no legal authority." The room goes dead silent except for Eleanor's nervous coughing. This isn't about vehicles anymore, it's about unauthorized rulemaking and illegal fine collection. "That's ridiculous," Belinda snaps. "I have full board authority." "Really?" David pulls out more documents. "Because your own husband's pickup truck was registered as a commercial vehicle for his contracting business. You collected fines from him too, right up until he died." The bomb drops. Belinda's been targeting the same type of vehicle her dead husband drove. The psychology is either tragic or terrifying. Maybe both. "How dare you bring up personal—" "Personal?" I interrupt. "You made this personal when you tried to steal my truck with a toy key." The meeting dissolves into chaos as residents realize their HOA president has been operating an illegal fine collection scheme while working through some seriously twisted grief. People start filing out, but not before exchanging phone numbers and promising to look into this further. After everyone leaves, Belinda corners me in the parking lot. The security light flickers overhead, casting horror movie shadows across her face, while the night air carries the scent of someone's late barbecue and impending storm. "You think you've accomplished something," she hisses, standing close enough that I can smell her coffee breath and see the mascara smudging under her eyes. "But I know exactly what kind of person you are." "What kind is that?" "The kind who doesn't belong in a community like this. The kind who brings down property values just by existing." There it is. The discrimination finally naked and ugly in the fluorescent parking lot light. Not about vehicles, not about rules, but about who she thinks deserves to live here. "Ma'am, I pay my HOA fees, follow the actual rules, and mind my own business." "Your business is my business now, and your daughter? She's watching how her father handles authority. What kind of lesson is that?" Bringing Zoe into this crosses every line I have. The protective rage hits like electrical current, sudden, powerful, and dangerous. "Stay away from my family," I say quietly. "This stops being about trucks right now." She clicks away on her heels, leaving me standing under that flickering light with murder in my heart and the taste of storm in the air. Time to find out what Belinda Crawford is really hiding. Because people who make up rules and steal money usually have bigger secrets. Belinda's response to legal humiliation: hire professional muscle and commit fraud. 3 days after her meeting disaster, a flatbed truck idles outside my house at 7 a.m. Benson's Towing, the kind of operation that asks questions later and charges storage fees immediately. The driver's already photographing my F-150 when I step outside with my coffee. "Morning," I call out. "Something I can help you with?" The guy looks genuinely confused, checking his paperwork twice. "Got a call about abandoned commercial vehicle removal. Lady said it's been sitting here unmoved for 2 weeks, blocking emergency access." From my own driveway? That's what seemed weird to me, but she had authorization codes, talked about state impound laws. He trails off, realizing he's been scammed. Belinda's been researching vehicle abandonment statutes like she's studying for the bar exam. In Texas, vehicles abandoned on public property for 48 hours can be towed. But she's either delusional enough or desperate enough to believe my driveway counts as public space. Here's my counterpunch. Instead of just explaining the situation, I go full investigative mode. "What authorization codes?" I ask, pulling out my phone to record. The driver shows me Belinda's work order. She's forged county letterhead, complete with fake case numbers and official-looking stamps. This isn't just harassment anymore. It's document fraud, a third-degree felony in Texas. "Sir, I think you've been given fraudulent paperwork. This isn't how county abandonment orders work." The mini twist hits when the driver, Rick Benson, makes a confession that changes everything. "Look, between you and me, this lady's called 6 times this month about different vehicles. Always the same story: abandoned trucks, emergency removal, community safety. My dispatcher flagged her as a problem customer." 6 vehicles. Belinda's been attempting systematic truck theft across multiple neighborhoods using fake government documents. She ever succeed in getting anything towed? Once, 2 months ago, some landscaper's pickup. We impounded it before we realized the paperwork was bogus. Cost us 15 grand in legal fees to sort out the lawsuit. Now I understand the desperation. Belinda's not just targeting me, she's been running a vehicle theft operation disguised as HOA enforcement, and she's already caused one legitimate business major financial damage. Rick hands me copies of all Belinda's fraudulent work orders. "Use these however you want. I'm done with this crazy lady." But Belinda's not finished. That night, my security cameras capture her most unhinged performance yet. She's out there at midnight with a complete surveyor's kit, measuring tape, level, notebook, pen light, conducting what appears to be a formal property assessment. The footage is incredible. This woman in designer pajamas and a windbreaker, army crawling around my truck with engineering equipment, muttering to herself about setback violations and commercial encroachment. She measures the distance from my truck to the property line 17 times, writes notes in what looks like a legal pad, and takes flash photographs from every conceivable angle. The crisp autumn air carries her voice clearly on camera. 6 inches into the easement, definitely commercial use. Emergency removal justified. She's building a case file for truck theft using completely fabricated measurements and imaginary regulations. The level of preparation would be impressive if it wasn't completely insane. Wednesday brings the real escalation. Eleanor Fitzpatrick files a formal complaint with the county, claiming my truck blocks emergency vehicle access and poses imminent safety risks to pedestrian traffic. The complaint includes Belinda's fake measurements and fraudulent photographs as evidence. Here's your knowledge nugget. Filing false government reports using forged documents isn't just a misdemeanor. It's a felony that can result in 5 years in prison and $10,000 in fines. When you combine document fraud with attempted theft, you're looking at serious federal charges. The community's finally waking up. David Morgan discovers violation notices on 12 different work vehicles across 3 streets. Janet documents Belinda's midnight surveying activities. The mail carrier reports harassment about his postal service truck. But the breaking point comes Thursday morning. I'm leaving for a job when Belinda emerges from her house carrying a cordless drill and what appears to be a car boot, the kind used by parking enforcement. She marches straight to my truck and starts attempting to install the boot on my rear wheel, in broad daylight, on my private property, while my security cameras record everything. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" "Immobilizing an illegally parked commercial vehicle pending proper removal," she announces, struggling with the boot mechanism. "Community emergency protocols. This woman is attempting to physically steal my truck using parking enforcement equipment." The smell of metal on metal mingles with her increasingly frantic breathing as she realizes the boot doesn't fit properly on my tire. This is attempted theft of a motor vehicle. This is community protection, I call 911 while she's still wrestling with her bootleg boot, muttering about authority and regulations that exist only in her fractured reality. Time to find out what drives someone this far over the edge. The truth hits like a live wire, sudden, shocking, and impossible to ignore. My buddy Travis is upgrading the community center's electrical panel when he discovers a cardboard box wedged behind the main breaker. The thing's covered in dust and marked confidential, board records only. Naturally, being an electrician who's seen too many code violations hidden in walls, Travis takes a look. "Marcus, get over here, now." Inside, a manila folder labeled Belinda Crawford, board authorization issues, and a stack of bank statements that smell like corruption and desperation. The previous HOA president, Robert Manning, documented everything before fleeing to Arizona rather than deal with what he'd uncovered. The smoking gun? Belinda's husband died owing the HOA $47,000 in unpaid legal fees. Not fees the HOA owed. Fees Belinda owed the HOA. Crawford Construction went bankrupt 18 months ago after a lawsuit over faulty electrical work. They mortgaged their house, defaulted on HOA dues, and faced foreclosure. Then Belinda ran for HOA president and somehow made their $47,000 debt vanish from all official records. "Look at these bank statements," Travis says, spreading papers across the dusty floor like evidence at a crime scene. She's been skimming from the community account for months. The pattern is crystal clear. Small withdrawals always under $500 to avoid automatic board review. Her landscape enhancement payments went to her nephew's fake company, a kid who owns a lawnmower, not a landscaping business. The emergency roof repairs never happened, but $3,200 disappeared anyway. Total embezzled, $6,147 and counting. Janet arrives as we're processing the scope of betrayal. Travis texted her because nurses know how to keep secrets and document evidence. Her face goes pale as she examines the financial records. "She's been using our money to harass you," Janet whispers, pointing to line items that make my blood boil. Locksmith kit, $89, towing consultations, $150, professional printing for violation flyers, $247. She charged her entire harassment campaign to the HOA maintenance fund, every violation notice, every midnight surveillance mission, every attempt to steal my truck, all funded with her neighbor's money. The woman's been robbing the community to pay for terrorizing the community. The power dynamic flips completely. This isn't about neighborhood control. It's about covering up theft. Belinda's obsessive enforcement isn't personal vendetta. It's criminal desperation masked as authority. Her escalating harassment makes perfect sense now. She needs constant fine revenue to cover what she already stole while creating enough chaos to prevent anyone from examining the books too closely. Those retroactive violation notices aren't about community standards. They're about generating cash to hide embezzlement. "How long before someone notices the missing money?" I ask. "Annual audits in 6 weeks, Janet calculates. She's been moving faster recently because she knows time's running out. Here's your knowledge nugget. HOA board members are fiduciaries under state law, meaning personal use of community funds, regardless of intention to repay, constitutes embezzlement and can result in prison time. Everything clicks into place. Belinda can't afford an audit, can't risk losing board control, and definitely can't survive criminal investigation. So she's been manufacturing crises to distract from the real crime. Every time I fought her harassment, she escalated further, not because I threatened her authority, but because I threatened to expose her theft. We need copies of everything, Travis says, already firing up the community center's ancient scanner. And we need witnesses. Janet pulls out her phone. I'm calling David, Sandra from accounting, and that reporter. This story just got a lot bigger. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead as we realize we're not fighting an overzealous HOA president. We're fighting a desperate criminal who's been robbing her own neighbors while hiding behind a badge of fake authority. Time to expose the real crime. War requires strategy, and we're about to wage the most organized neighborhood campaign in HOA history. Within 2 hours of discovering Belinda's theft, my kitchen table becomes mission control. Travis, Janet, David Morgan, and Sandra Morrison, the accountant from Oak Street who's been quietly documenting Belinda's financial irregularities for months. First things first, Sandra says, spreading bank statements across my table like battle plans. We need to understand exactly how much she's stolen and where it went. Sandra's analysis reveals the scope. $6,847 in direct embezzlement, plus another $4,200 in fraudulent vendor payments to fake companies. Her nephew's landscaping business exists only as a bank account. The community center roof repairs were quoted by her brother-in-law's construction company, which dissolved 6 months ago. She's not just stealing, Sandra explains, highlighting transactions with different colored pens. She's running a money laundering operation through fake HOA contractors. Here's knowledge nugget number 1. HOA boards must provide annual financial disclosure to homeowners. Failure to do so is a misdemeanor, and most states require immediate access to financial records upon written request. Janet volunteers for community outreach. We need maximum attendance at the next board meeting. Can't let Belinda control the narrative. David designs professional flyers. His plumbing business taught him about effective communication with panicked customers. Clean layout, bullet points, no emotional language. Just facts. HOA financial transparency meeting. Your dues, your right to know. The key insight comes from Travis, who's dealt with permit fraud in electrical work. We can't just expose her, we need to protect ourselves legally. Document everything, multiple witnesses, official channels. My role becomes evidence coordinator. Every security camera recording, every fraudulent violation notice, every midnight surveillance video gets copied, time-stamped, and stored in 3 separate locations. My daughter Zoe helps organize paperwork during her homework time. She thinks we're playing office, not building a criminal case. Sandra contacts the local news reporter who covered our previous community meeting. This isn't just neighborhood drama anymore, she explains over the phone. This is systematic theft from a community trust fund. Here's knowledge nugget number 2. Most states allow individual homeowners to file criminal embezzlement charges against HOA board members. Community action isn't required, but it's more effective. The breakthrough comes when David discovers Belinda's been targeting other neighborhoods too. His plumber network reveals identical harassment patterns in 3 nearby developments: fake violation notices, attempted vehicle theft, fraudulent towing orders. She's not just stealing from us, David reports. She's running the same scam across multiple HOAs using her consultant business. We map out the timeline: proper legal notice for an emergency board meeting, financial presentation that even Eleanor Fitzpatrick can understand, media presence for accountability, and legal observer to ensure everything's documented correctly. Travis handles technical preparation. His paralegal girlfriend agrees to attend as our legal observer, someone who knows procedure and can spot if Belinda tries to manipulate the meeting rules. The most important preparation? Childcare coordination. Janet organizes babysitting for the meeting night because we need parents focused on the presentation, not managing kids. My daughter Zoe volunteers to help with the younger children. She's proud of her dad fixing the neighborhood problems. Sandra creates visual aids that would make a corporate boardroom jealous. Charts showing missing money, timeline of fake vendor payments, comparison of Belinda's spending versus actual maintenance costs. Everything in large print for the elderly residents who've been Belinda's primary intimidation targets. Here's knowledge nugget number 3. Embezzlement charges can be filed at state level if funds exceed $20,500, or federal level if multiple jurisdictions are involved. Belinda's multi-neighborhood operation qualifies for federal prosecution. Janet secures the venue, not the community center where Belinda controls access, but David's backyard with professional lighting and sound equipment borrowed from his brother's DJ business. Legal on private property, holds 75 people comfortably, and completely outside Belinda's influence. The smell of fresh pizza fills my kitchen during our final strategy session. We're not just angry neighbors anymore. We're an organized coalition with legal backing, media support, and a bulletproof case. Remember, Sandra emphasizes, this isn't about revenge. It's about protecting our community and making sure this never happens again. But there's personal satisfaction in knowing that Belinda's midnight surveillance activities have been recorded, her document fraud has been documented, and her embezzlement has been calculated down to the penny. Travis raises his beer bottle in a toast to taking down suburban dictators with spreadsheets and security cameras. The taste of victory is still premature, but the groundwork is solid. We've got evidence, witnesses, legal support, and community backing. More importantly, we've got the kind of detailed preparation that turns angry neighbors into effective advocates. Belinda Crawford has no idea what's coming, but she's about to discover that when you steal from electricians, nurses, plumbers, and accountants, you're messing with people who know how to organize, document, and follow through. Game time approaches. Belinda's response to organized resistance? Full-scale scorched earth warfare with a side of complete psychological breakdown. The morning after our strategy session, she launches her counterattack. Every household gets a certified letter, expensive, official-looking, and completely unhinged. The letterhead reads, Crawford Community Consulting, with a fake address and fraudulent legal credentials. Notice of legal action, conspiracy to defame HOA leadership. She's threatening to sue 73 households for organized harassment of elected officials. The letter cites non-existent statutes about community destabilization and warns of civil penalties exceeding $50,000 per household. It's like legal fan fiction written by someone who learned law from daytime television. But the real escalation comes when she tries to cancel our meeting venue. David gets a call at 6 a.m. from City Permitting, claiming his illegal assembly permit has been revoked due to safety concerns. What assembly permit? David asks, still groggy. The one for your political rally tonight. Someone reported unauthorized gathering with expected attendance exceeding fire code capacity. Belinda's been calling city offices claiming we're organizing an anti-government extremist meeting in David's backyard. She filed false reports about expected crowd size, alleged weapons presence, and threats against public officials. Here comes my counterpunch. Instead of defending against her attacks, I go completely transparent. I call Officer Rodriguez directly. Hey, it's Marcus from Willowbrook. I need to report someone filing false police reports and attempting to interfere with a legal homeowners meeting. The truck lady again? She's escalated to document fraud and filing false government reports. I've got evidence. Rodriguez agrees to have patrol units visible during our meeting, not to shut us down, but to protect us from Belinda's increasingly erratic behavior. The mini-twist comes when Sandra discovers Belinda's been trying to access our personal credit reports through her fake community consulting business. She's filed fraudulent background check requests on me, David, Janet, and Travis, claiming HOA security protocols require financial verification of board challengers. She's fishing for dirt, Sandra explains, showing us the credit inquiry notifications, looking for anything she can use to discredit us publicly. But Belinda's desperation leads to her biggest mistake yet. Wednesday afternoon, my security cameras catch her attempting to enter my property through the back gate. She's carrying a manila folder and what appears to be official-looking documents, muttering to herself about evidence collection and property inspection authority. The footage is incredible. This woman, dressed in business attire, breaking into my backyard to plant fake violation evidence. She tries 3 different gates, tests my garage door opener, and actually attempts to enter my house through an unlocked window. When that fails, she starts photographing the interior of my truck through the windows, documenting commercial equipment that consists of basic electrical tools every tradesman carries. She's building a fake case file for vehicle confiscation using completely manufactured evidence. Property inspection for community compliance, she announces to my security camera, apparently unaware she's being recorded. Documenting commercial vehicle violations and safety hazards. The woman's having a full conversation with herself about imaginary regulations while trespassing on private property. The audio picks up her muttering about resistance to authority and people who don't belong here. But the breaking point comes Thursday evening, 2 hours before our scheduled meeting. Belinda shows up at David's house with Eleanor Fitzpatrick and 2 men I don't recognize. Older guys in suits who look like they'd rather be anywhere else. We're here to conduct an emergency inspection of this illegal assembly location, Belinda announces, trying to push past David's wife at the front door. The inspectors turn out to be retired county employees she hired as fake authorities. She's paying them $200 each to pose as building inspectors and shut down our meeting for safety violations. Here's your knowledge nugget. Impersonating government officials is a federal felony punishable by up to 3 years in prison. Hiring people to pose as inspectors compounds the charges. David handles it perfectly. Gentlemen, can I see your official credentials and inspection warrants? The fake inspectors realize they've been hired for something illegal and leave immediately. Eleanor retreats to Belinda's car while Belinda herself stands in David's driveway, screaming about conspiracy to undermine community authority. "You people are destroying everything," she shrieks, loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. "This community has standards. There are rules. I have authority." The citronella candles are already lit in David's backyard as cars start arriving for our meeting. The smell of fresh copies mingles with evening barbecue smoke as neighbors park along the street, carrying folding chairs and determination. Belinda's standing in the driveway, surrounded by evidence of her own crimes, screaming about authority while 47 households prepare to vote her out of power. Sometimes the best revenge is just giving someone enough rope. Belinda's final desperate gambit? Nuclear option with a side of complete media manipulation. Friday morning, she schedules an emergency board vote to expel me from the HOA entirely. Not just fines or restrictions, complete banishment from the community with forced sale of my house within 30 days. The notice arrives via certified mail, stamped with fake legal seals and citing community protection statutes that exist only in her imagination. Eleanor Fitzpatrick gets the same treatment as me. Apparently, attending our meeting constitutes conspiracy against community leadership. Belinda's purging anyone who dares question her authority. But her masterstroke? She calls Channel 7 News claiming our neighborhood is being terrorized by extremist groups harassing elderly HOA officials. These people are threatening community leaders, she tells the reporter using her most vulnerable widow voice. I'm just trying to protect our neighborhood from outside agitators who want to destroy property values. She's framed the story as elderly HOA president versus dangerous troublemakers. The news teaser runs at noon. Local HOA president claims harassment by radical homeowner group. Here's my strategic response. I don't defend against her media attack. I control it. I call the same reporter with a better story. Ma'am, I'm the homeowner she's talking about. I've got bank records showing she's embezzled community funds, security footage of her attempting vehicle theft, and documentation of fraud across multiple neighborhoods. Are you saying the HOA president is lying? I'm saying she's facing federal embezzlement charges and using media manipulation to distract from criminal behavior. The mini twist hits when the reporter, Lisa Morgan from Channel 7, agrees to interview both sides, but only if we can provide documented evidence on camera. Real journalism, not just he said, she said drama. Sandra and I spend Friday afternoon preparing a presentation that would make prosecutors jealous. Bank statements, forged documents, security footage, and testimonials from 6 different neighborhoods where Belinda's pulled the same scam. But Belinda's not finished with her scorched earth campaign. Friday evening, she attempts to place liens on the homes of everyone attending our meeting. She files fraudulent legal documents claiming unpaid community assessments and violation penalties for 23 households. Here's your knowledge nugget. Filing false liens is a felony in most states and can result in $10,000 fines plus prison time. Victims can also sue for damages, including attorney fees and emotional distress. My paralegal friend confirms the liens are completely fraudulent, wrong legal forms, fake notarization, and citing non-existent HOA powers. But they'll still require individual lawsuits to remove, costing each household thousands in legal fees. She's trying to bankrupt anyone who opposes her, Travis observes, reviewing the lien documents. Even if she loses, the legal costs could force people to drop out. That's when Belinda makes her biggest mistake. She attempts to access my employer's database, calling Morrison Electric, claiming I've been using company equipment for personal harassment activities. We need to verify his employment status, she tells my boss, Jim Morrison. There are community safety concerns about his professional conduct. Jim calls me immediately. Marcus, some crazy lady's trying to get you fired. Says you're using company trucks to harass neighbors. She's trying to steal my personal truck, and when that failed, she's targeting my job. Want me to call her back and explain property law? The beauty of Belinda's desperation is that she's committing new crimes faster than we can document the old ones. Fraudulent liens, impersonating authorities, filing false police reports, attempting to interfere with employment. She's building the prosecutor's case for us. Saturday morning brings her final escalation. She shows up at my house with a locksmith claiming emergency HOA access rights to inspect for hidden commercial equipment. The locksmith looks embarrassed as Belinda explains her authority to enter any community property for safety inspections. When he asks to see legal documentation, she produces her fake authorization letters and forged county forms. Ma'am, this doesn't look official, the locksmith says, examining her paperwork. I'm the HOA president. I have full community authority. To break into someone's house? The mechanical whir of my security cameras tracking this conversation provides the soundtrack as Belinda realizes even criminals for hire have standards. The locksmith leaves without touching my door, probably worried about accessory charges. But the real breaking point comes when she spots Channel 7's news van pulling up for our scheduled interview. Her face goes through several color changes as she realizes her media manipulation backfired. "You called the press?" she shrieks, standing in my driveway surrounded by evidence of attempted breaking and entering. You called them first, I reply calmly. I just gave them a better story. The taste of victory mixes with Saturday morning coffee as Lisa Morgan sets up her camera equipment. Belinda retreats to her fortress, leaving behind the locksmith's business card and the fresh scent of her desperation hanging in the suburban air. Sometimes the best strategy is letting your enemy destroy herself while you document everything. Tuesday, 7 p.m. The community center packed with 127 residents, Channel 7 news crew, and enough tension to power the building's lights. This isn't just a HOA meeting anymore, it's a reckoning. Belinda arrives 20 minutes late, clearly agitated and carrying a briefcase that's probably full of more fake documents. She's dressed like she's appearing before the Supreme Court, navy suit, pearl necklace, and the kind of desperate confidence that comes from knowing you're about to lose everything. The fluorescent lights reflect off her sweating forehead as she realizes the scope of community turnout. Every folding chair occupied, people standing along the walls, and a professional news camera pointed directly at the board table. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins, attempting to control the agenda, we're here to address organized harassment of community leadership by outside agitators. Point of order, Sandra interrupts, standing with her folder of evidence. We're here for financial transparency, as legally required by state HOA regulations. The room buzzes with anticipation. You can smell the burnt coffee and nervous energy as 127 households prepare to see their community savings account laid bare. This meeting will proceed according to proper procedure, Belinda starts, which includes reviewing annual financial reports, I add, pulling out the bank statements, reports that haven't been provided in 18 months. Belinda's face goes red as she realizes she's trapped. Refuse to discuss finances, and she looks guilty. Discuss them, and everyone sees the theft. Sandra steps forward with her presentation boards. These are your HOA account statements for the past year. Notice the pattern of unauthorized withdrawals. The visual evidence is devastating. Charts showing money flowing from the community account to fake vendors, timeline of fraudulent expenses, comparison of reported maintenance costs versus actual work completed. Even Eleanor Fitzpatrick looks shocked as the numbers sink in. This is preposterous, Belinda shrieks. These people have forged documents to frame community leadership. That's when I play my ace. Ma'am, these documents came from the county clerk's office. Are you saying county records are forged? Officer Rodriguez steps forward from his position near the back wall. Belinda probably assumed he was there for crowd control. She doesn't realize he's investigating her for filing false police reports. Mrs. Crawford, can you explain the discrepancy between reported landscape expenses and actual vendor payments? I don't have to explain anything to... Actually, you do, Sandra interrupts. State law requires board members to account for all community expenditures. The mini twist comes when David Morgan reveals the scope of Belinda's operation. We've contacted 3 other neighborhoods where Mrs. Crawford provided consulting services. Same pattern, fake violations, fraudulent vendor payments, and missing community funds. The room erupts in angry whispers. This isn't isolated theft, it's systematic fraud across multiple communities. That's defamation, Belinda screams, attempting to grab Sandra's evidence boards. I'll sue every person in this room. Here comes the mic drop moment. I stand up with my phone, ready to play the security footage everyone's been waiting to see. Before you threaten lawsuits, maybe you'd like to explain this. The video plays on Sandra's laptop, projected onto the community center wall for everyone to see. Belinda at midnight, measuring my truck with surveying equipment. Belinda attempting to enter my property with fake authorization. Belinda trying to install a car boot on my tire while muttering about community authority. That's not... She stammers, watching herself commit crimes in high definition. Community authority to steal vehicles? I ask. The coup de grace comes when Eleanor Fitzpatrick stands up, shaking but determined. I resign from this board effective immediately. This is wrong and I won't be part of it anymore. Belinda's last ally just abandoned ship on live television. You can't resign! I'm the president! I have authority! Belinda shrieks, advancing toward Eleanor like she's going to physically prevent the resignation. That's when Officer Rodriguez steps forward. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. These people are stealing my neighborhood. Arrest them. Actually, ma'am, you're under arrest. Embezzlement, filing false reports, and attempted theft of a motor vehicle. The handcuffs click into place as Belinda screams about conspiracy and stolen authority. The fluorescent lights reflect off the metal restraints. while 127 residents watch their former HOA president realize that community authority doesn't include immunity from criminal law. "This is illegal! I'm the president! You can't arrest me for protecting the community!" "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent," Rodriguez continues, completely unfazed by her protests. The community center erupts in spontaneous applause as Belinda is led away, still screaming about her authority and the conspiracy to steal her neighborhood. The sound echoes off the walls while camera flashes capture the moment suburbia's small-time dictator finally meets consequences. Outside, the night air carries the scent of freedom and the distant sound of Belinda's voice fading as the police car drives away. Justice tastes like victory coffee and feels like 127 neighbors finally able to breathe again. 3 weeks later, Willowbrook Estates feels like a completely different neighborhood, the kind of place where people actually wave at each other instead of hiding behind curtains. The new HOA board gets elected within 10 days of Belinda's arrest. Sandra becomes treasurer with a mandate for monthly financial transparency. David wins the enforcement position and immediately rewrites vehicle policies using actual legal language instead of made-up regulations. Even Eleanor apologizes publicly and volunteers for the community garden project. "I was scared," she admits during our first coffee with the board meeting, but being scared doesn't excuse enabling theft. The financial recovery exceeds expectations. Belinda's house goes into foreclosure to cover restitution, recovering $8,400 of stolen funds. Her insurance policy pays another $4,200 after the criminal conviction. Legal fees get covered by fining her estate for administrative costs, and we reduce everyone's HOA dues by $30 monthly due to actual responsible financial management. But the best part? The community projects funded by recovered money. The playground gets new equipment purchased with funds Belinda claimed went to landscape enhancement. The community garden flourishes on the vacant lot she said was too expensive to maintain. And our crown jewel, the Willowbrook Transparency Scholarship for local high school students pursuing trades education or community service. First recipient, David's daughter Maya, studying electrical engineering with plans to return and help maintain community infrastructure. The check presentation happens in our beautiful new garden, surrounded by tomatoes and sunflowers instead of fear and fake violation notices. My personal life transforms too. Those reduced HOA fees mean I can cut back to normal work hours and actually spend evenings with Zoe. She's thriving. New friends from all the families who finally feel safe letting their kids play outside. And Janet? We've been dating for 2 months now. Turns out fighting suburban corruption together is a pretty solid foundation for romance. She jokes that she fell in love during the evidence organizing phase when she realized I actually color code my filing system. The legal resolution brings satisfying closure. Belinda pleads guilty to embezzlement and filing false reports, receiving 18 months in county jail plus 5 years probation. The restraining order prevents any contact with me or my family. Her nephew's fake landscaping company gets investigated by the state attorney, leading to tax fraud charges. The civil lawsuit recovers an additional $12,000 in damages and attorney fees. More importantly, it establishes legal precedent preventing similar HOA abuse in our county. But the real victory is cultural. Our monthly Transparency Day celebrations bring the whole community together for barbecues, kids' activities, and actual democratic discussion of neighborhood issues. The smell of grilling burgers replaces the scent of fear that used to hang over our streets. Channel 7's follow-up story wins a Regional Journalism Award for community interest reporting. Lisa Morgan jokes that Belinda gave her the best investigative piece of her career by being so spectacularly criminal on camera. The community garden thrives beyond expectations. Families who never spoke before bond over tomato-growing tips and shared childcare during planting season. Kids who used to hide from HOA enforcement now play freely among the vegetables. Belinda's old house sells to a young family with 3 children and 2 dogs, exactly the kind of property value threat she spent years fighting. Their kids play basketball in the driveway, their dogs bark happily in the backyard, and their work trucks park legally in their own driveway without generating a single complaint. My security cameras still monitor the property, but now they capture kids riding bikes and neighbors chatting at mailboxes instead of midnight surveillance operations and attempted vehicle theft. 6 months later, Zoe asks if we can stay in this house forever. "I like it here now, Dad. Everyone's nice." That's the real measure of victory. My 8-year-old daughter feels safe in her own neighborhood. The taste of morning coffee in my driveway carries the sweetness of normalcy. No sound of clicking heels on patrol routes, no slam of car doors delivering violation notices, no metallic scrape of fake keys against honest working trucks. Just the distant sound of children laughing and the knowledge that sometimes, when you stand up to bullies with spreadsheets and security cameras, you don't just win, you build something better. Ready to share your HOA nightmare story? Drop a comment below. I read every single one and love hearing how you dealt with neighborhood tyrants. And if this helped you understand your rights or gave you hope for fighting back, hit that subscribe button for more community justice stories. Knowledge is power, and power belongs to the people, not the petty dictators.
Thanks for watching HOA Stories. If this episode made you laugh or shake your head at HOA madness, hit that like button and drop your opinion below. We post HOA Karen Chaos and neighborhood showdowns every week, so be sure to subscribe to catch the next unbelievable story.